Okay, welcome Andrew. I think you know who I am.
I do indeed, Santa. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. I'm very, very busy at the moment and a little bit stressed actually.
Well, I hope I can help you.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is why I've got these questions, and I just want to go through some of these questions with you, if that's okay. If you just got 5 or 10 minutes.
Indeed.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, I've prepared these questions, and I've got in total, I think I've got 10 questions. So the first one that I wanted to start with, we'll get this thing to work. Okay. All right. I've had a look at your book.
Excellent.
All right. And I'm a bit confused about some of the terms. So the first term, I know it's pretty basic. Must sound basic to you, but what do you mean by the term smart learning? I mean, is that the opposite of dumb learning?
No, it's well, it could be, I suppose. But the real point is that with the advent of bring your own devices and personal devices and tablets and smartphones everywhere, we really ought to start looking at the learning environment differently. These technologies are different to other technologies we've come across before, and they're like little gems. And as they're in the learning space, I think what we ought to be seeing is people interacting with technology differently. And if that's true, and they are using technology differently, then shouldn't we as teachers and indeed learners be reconsidering the way we work with each other, the way we learn together? And so the notion of smart learning is really simple. It is to look at the changing learning environment and to actually say, let's not just stick the technology onto our practice and our experience, but let's actually examine how this very flexible personal technology changes the nature of our roles.
Our roles? What do you mean as teachers?
As teachers and as learners. If we've got personal devices that enable us to connect more easily with each other, connect more easily with the world out there, then surely we can start to make good use of those connections. We weren't able to do that until recently. So it's different to provided technologies like Blackboard or Moodle or even word processing technologies and office technologies. This is our own ubiquitous technology, and it's part of us. We carry it everywhere. So really, the notion of smart learning is better understood as a question that asks, ought we not appreciate how our world has changed, because we should be engaging with it in a different way to make better use of these different ubiquitous technologies.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, I think I've got a better understanding now, which is good, because it kind of leads me on to my next question and kind of follows on from what you were just saying. I mean, do you think myself and the job that I do and the incredible busy time that I have around about this time of year, do you actually think that I need a Twitter account or my own app, in fact? What do you think?
It's quite possible, Father Christmas, that you do, but I think I have to signal caution. I think we all love you dearly, and the danger of technology like this is it can really get in the way of the things that are very valuable to us. So I think you need to think very carefully about whether you wanted to go down that road. But certainly there could be some really good benefits for you and your elves and all those children that you get out to meet once every year, and indeed their parents. Yeah, I think there are probably some good reasons for you looking at the technology, and maybe we'll look at those with some of the other answers as we go on. But I would actually signal caution. Don't assume that just because it's there that we should be using it. As I tell the people who I work for and work with, we should be quite critical about this.
Okay. All right. Oh, yeah, I was just a bit worried I was going to be a bit inundated really. But anyway. Okay, so moving on. Next third question. Why did you actually think there was a need for a smart learning book? I mean, why do it in a book? You know, the whole thing's about mobile technology and apps.
Well, that's a very good question. I actually sort of been thinking that there is a gap to have a good conversation about this. I think your question, now that you've phrased it like that, is even more interesting. I think one of the things that we see with smart technology and social media is that we can learn as much by making artifacts, by writing together, by being critical and supportive of each other. And I have to say that one of the reasons for writing the book was to learn together. And by together, I'm referring to the 27 authors who contributed to the book. And we worked together online, collaboratively. All of the authors worked in Google Docs. We set up a Google Drive folder. And each of us brought research and case studies and scenarios to the book. But we didn't do it on our own. What we can do differently now as writers is to appreciate our network. And so the experience of actually writing a book together was very much a learning experience. Normally you'd wait for peer review and you'd be dreading that moment when the reviews came back and you would have to make all sorts of changes to your script. Now with a collaborative writing approach, that's different, and I think all of the authors involved really enjoyed that support through the writing process. And I know as editor it made my life a lot easier knowing that each of us would be providing a review for 3 of the other chapters. So that's one reason for writing a book, that it was a great learning experience. But actually, I don't know, maybe I'm of an age, and maybe you are as well. You know, taking a look at you, my guess is that you might appreciate a book.
I do.
You might appreciate holding on to something and sitting in an armchair by an open fire and flicking through, maybe even writing on it. Because we do e-books now, my personal views about printed books have become less precious too. But there's an e-book there as well, and I'll tell you a little bit where you can, later about where you can get that from too. Yeah.
I mean, I've got my Kindle, but I do like an e-book. I do like a normal book.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Next one's a really big question. I know. Really big question. So I don't know if you can give me. Oh, hang on. I've got a message coming in here now. Whoops. This is mobile technology on the go. It's one of the kids, I think. Hello. Hello, Rosalie. Yeah, I'm just on a webinar at the moment. You'll have to phone me back, yeah? Webinar. Okay, see you later. Bye. Right, sorry about that, Andrew. Sorry. Yeah, back to where were we? Oh, yes.
That overview. Yeah, if you can just. That overview you were asking for.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in just a couple of minutes, it's obviously quite a difficult thing to do. I think one of the things about smart learning, certainly as it came out as an edited book from the Media Enhanced Learning Special Interest Group community, the thing that immediately impressed me was how many different things that people wanted to write about. There wasn't a lot of overlap in terms of the chapters and the ideas. So we've got 27 people writing chapters, all with a different take on the book. I think there were sort of 4 ideas really that captured what it was all about. The first one was the obvious one, how smart devices are changing the experience of academics and their students. The second idea was in relation to Melsig's own background around digital audio and video. And how digital audio and video are more accessible to academics and students given the technology that we now have. The third idea that I think you find in the book is how social media can enhance and transform your learning. So that whole social media thing in the last 3 or 4 years has become really important to the SIG, and we've done various focus events, special focus events on social media. And I think the fourth thing, and it's pertinent to what we're doing here and what you're doing yourself, is how apps establish a new user-centered learning space. So the apps that we have on our smart devices are actually really quite important to us. Create a very personal technical learning space, I think, as is evidenced by the 12 apps of Christmas. You know, people are in the habit of choosing ones that work for them and aren't so concerned with looking at provided technology. So that's an overview of the book.
All right, brilliant. That's really really useful for me. I'm not sure if I'll have time to read the whole thing, but
I'm sure once you picked it up, you won't be able to put it down. But there's a danger. Don't pick it up before Christmas. You've got a fair bit of work to do.
Yeah. I'll look at it in the new year.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. In the book, I have read a little bit. It first, that's just my Steve, one of my head elf.
Your elves are off already.
Yeah. See you later, Steve. See you later. Right. When I read the first couple of chapters, and he kept on referring, or the authors kept on referring to the BYOD, and I was just wondering if that's similar to buy one get one free.
Well, they both begin with B and there's an O in there, but I must say I'm struggling to see the connection. Bring your own device, or bring your own devices is really one of those ideas that goes along with those portable devices, and certainly outside of education, I think we actually see a lot more impact of how personal devices in the office or in commerce have really started to change the workplace. But coming back to make the connection to bog off, I'm not sure I can really, but maybe the word personalization there somehow.
I don't know, I was thinking like most of us, well I certainly have got more than one device now. You know, I've got my phone, I've got my laptop,
okay, yeah.
I've got my...
Well, you're doing very well there, but aren't you giving those away?
Yeah, I do give them away, yeah, but I always keep one or two back for testing purposes.
But yeah, I mean, picking up on your point, then multiple devices. I'm actually sitting at a PC now, and right in front of me I can see 3 devices. I just wasn't expecting that. I've got an iPod on my right, I've got my phone there, and I've got my tablet down here, and that's always the way it is with me and us, I guess. These devices are ubiquitous, and we have our various mixes of devices. And that story came out in 1 or 2 places in the book as well, that we all have different flavors of devices and preferences and so forth.
Great. Okay, moving on. Well, just as more of a personal question, this really, just asking you as a person, as an individual, what are your favourite apps?
Well, that is such a difficult question, because I have to say one of the reasons I wanted to do this, my first response was, let's do this book, because there's all sorts of apps. I mean, I'm one of these people who collects them like baubles. They're nice shiny little gems, and I just collect them. However, I decided to try and give you somewhat of a more serious, useful response to your question, to look at what I'm using mostly at the moment. And I've got a list of about 5 or 6, so let's just reel off some of those with a quick explanation why. Evernote is always with me. One of the problems of being connected is you come across so much really useful information, useful people, and I'm always wanting to hoard and curate and store the things that I find before I move on. So Evernote allows me to actually keep track of all of the things that I read and all of the things I find. So Evernote. Twitter definitely has to be on the top of my list. I'm not one of those people that's always on Twitter, but when I am, it's a really powerful tool. So I very much appreciate learning through tweet chats and so forth. I don't tend to spend a lot of time in it otherwise, and it's interesting to hear how people have different takes on that. I can't have a top 5 or 6 without making reference to Google Drive and Google Docs. I mean, I've already told you how we used Google Drive as the space in which we wrote the book. And that, for me, proved it beyond doubt. I don't tend to work in Microsoft Office these days. It's so important for me to work with other people, and that means I'm on Google Drive working with other people in various ways. I thought I'd pick up on a couple of more specialist ones, maybe one that people haven't heard of, but I think is absolutely brilliant. If anyone is at all interested in finding a decent audio recording app, there's an app called Voice Record. It is the most capable piece of software I have ever come across. It is absolutely brilliant in terms of not only recording and controlling your recording and naming your recording and all the metadata that goes with it, but in the many ways of sharing it as well. So I tend to make recordings of various things, feedback and so forth, and I can put them straight out to SoundCloud, or I can put them onto Google Drive. I can put them anywhere. I can attach them to emails. I can edit them on my smart device. So I would highlight Voice Record as my top app of all time.
All right, sounds great. Never heard of it.
And yeah, not many people have actually, but there are so many voice recorder apps, and I've done a fair amount of work into finding the best one with my colleague Anne Northcliffe. We've done a lot of work on audio feedback and other methods of using audio, so it's quite an important area for me. And one more from my list, the YouTube Capture app. Being able to record YouTube clips just there and then very easily using on the iOS platform, it's called YouTube Capture, and I think on the Android it's just called YouTube. But being able to record YouTube clips very, very easily is a very powerful learning device as far as I'm concerned.
Great. That's very interesting. I've never heard a couple of those, so very interesting. All right, moving on a little bit because we haven't got a lot of time. I've certainly got a busy night tonight, so I'm out and about. Your book has been on several of the Christmas lists that have been sent to me. I mean, literally hundreds, if not thousands. And some of those people have been just extremely naughty this year, really, really bad. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to put it on their list, but I think it's probably worth some of them at least reading it. So is there anywhere
they might learn a thing or two, and maybe next year they'll be in your good books.
Exactly. I want to put them back on the straight and narrow again. So is there anywhere else they can get the book from apart from me?
Yeah. If you like the printed version, probably the simplest way of getting it is to go to Amazon and buy it from Amazon. It's just a standard sort of academic book price, quite affordable, and in a nice flappy cover and very tangible. But it's a principle of mine and a principle of Melsig's to make sure that anything we produce, if at all possible, is free. So that applies to our events and our webinars and our books and whatever we do. So you can get it free from the Melsig website as an ebook in Kindle format or whatever EPUB format you prefer. And the Melsig website is melsig.shu.ac.uk, and if you go to the Melsig site you'll see a section called Publications.
Great.
And it's free.
That's
there.
very useful. Thank you for that, Andrew. Okay. Well, now you've done this book, have you got any other plans to write any other books around this subject at all, on mobile learning or apps or sort of smart technologies or anything like that?
Yeah, I have. I'm in the middle of writing a monograph at the moment, so slightly different. It's all down to me, and I'm finding it such hard work, but it's building upon some of the ideas that were in smart learning, but actually thinking much more in terms of learning space. I think one of the things I really learned from the Melsig community, but also from working on the Smart Learning book, is that this isn't about technology. It's not even about teaching. It's something in the middle of all that. It's where all these things converge. And so the book I'm writing at the moment is called New Spaces for New Learning in Higher Education. And it will incorporate a lot of case studies. I'm talking to a lot of very interesting people at the moment about how they are using things like smart learning, but all sorts of things, open learning and you name it. And I'll just put a call out for anyone who is doing anything interesting. I would love to hear from you, because the most important thing about my current writing is that it reflects the interesting people operating in this area. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, maybe I'll put you in touch with our educational department up here in the North Pole sometime.
Excellent.
Okay. Anyway, last few questions, and these are fairly, we'll whistle through these. But have you made any New Year's resolutions for next year? Obviously, to finish your book will be one thing.
Yeah, no, I've made one resolution. Really quite simple, and it's never to write a book again.
Okay, all right. Well, two's not bad, and yeah, good. All right, that's a very clear resolution.
Yeah, whether I'll keep to it, well, it is a New Year's resolution, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Okay, great. All right, so that's my last question, actually. So I've put the details up here. I actually went and found that, yeah, the book is available, and you can get it on Amazon, and as I say, you can get a free download of it as well. So I'll leave those details up. But anyway, I think we've reached the end. It took a little bit longer than I expected, actually, but that's because you really went through and into some detail, and it was really very interesting.
I wanted to give you a chance to thaw out a bit.
Yeah. Well, it is definitely, it's a hot topic, isn't it? Very
absolutely.
Hot topic. All right. Okay. Thanks very much. I'm going to stop now because I've got to get off. Well, good to speak to you, and I'll probably see you soon sometime.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.